Grounded, the podcast by Inspiring Time. And today we are talking all about visualization, memories, how to reconnect and kind of reprogram a little bit. And we kind of have a guru with us today. Now, Tammy and I met only a week ago, and she reached out. We were in this group and we were sharing entrepreneurs all over the place building their business, and we connected immediately. We set up a quick conversation to chat, and that quick conversation turned into an hour, and it was beautiful. I had so much fun and learned so much. So I cannot wait for Tammy to share with you what she's doing and how it could absolutely transform the way you look at your life. So Tammy, you are not only an amazing woman, you have a beautiful family, kiddos, but you are also the founder and creator of the Happiness Tribe.
That's right. Yes.
And so from there, I'm going to let you dive into what you want to share with us. And then we're just going to go back and forth, and it's going to be great. I'm excited.
Awesome. Yes. So I was raised in a small town in Spring Valley, Wisconsin. I ended up injuring my knee in a cheerleading accident when I was 17. And then in years later, after a marriage and a divorce and 3 kids, I ended up in a deep, deep depression and I just couldn't figure out what was wrong with me. So for some of you out there, it's like, well, what's wrong with me? Why does all this bad stuff happen to me? Like, how can I have such bad luck? And I ended up finding brain training that helped me understand how my brain is controlling my emotions, my responses, what I notice, the way I perceive things. And so I played with it a little bit, but then in 2017, the reason I brought up my knee was because I was scheduled for a total knee replacement. And that was because the surgery that they did when I was 17 no longer was valid. I guess it disintegrated. And so they were saying I need a total knee replacement, went to a different doctor. He told me total knee replacement, sent my MRI to California because they have special bionic knees. And he told me you need a total knee replacement. So I was thinking all of my options were gone. I'm, in my 40s, and they were like, you're going to need another surgery. And it just sounded like everything I was learning about a total knee replacement sounded like I wanted a different option. I actually went back to the mind, the brain, the training I learned about how your subconscious builds your body. And within 2 weeks, I was off crutches. My knee wasn't swollen, and I was able to cancel my total knee replacement, and I haven't had it. So that's why I started this journey, because there is a magnificent mind that's working inside of us, but it's doing things automatically for us. And sometimes it's just not the desire we want in our life.
So the other day we discussed how as little people, we are raised by imperfect parents. Mm-hmm. Nobody's perfect. Right. These kids do not come with a manual, come to find out, when they are born. And sometimes you just do the best that you can. So you just kind of get on your path and you just keep going. And sometimes you just cross your fingers and hope for the best. But what you're learning now are some things that maybe if we just put it in our everyday thought process, it might make some of these memories a little bit different. So let's talk about that. All these things are happening, and now you're stuck with them right now, so how do we revisit that? What does that process look like?
So the way that our brain works before we're 7 years old is to just absorb everything. We have to absorb it and then implement it in order to learn everything from eating to talking to walking. And to, kids are able to learn like 7 different languages in the first 5 years of their life. Like how come that is because they're in a brain wave that's just like soak it in and create it, soak it in and create it, soak it in. And so that's a very powerful stage for them to fit in with their family, to live, to survive, like all the things that they learn. But what happens then is because our brain is on high drive for just absorbing things, we also absorb limiting beliefs. So you're 2 years old and you can't tie your shoe right, and mom or dad says, how come you can't get this? Well, now all of a sudden you absorbed that, and then you're like, how come I can't get things? How come learning is so hard? How come I'm not perfect like my older sister or brother? And that's just because they're older, they have more experience, and you can't understand why you're not at that same ability. And so you start to believe there's something wrong with yourself, something wrong with you, and it carries through.
With your knee story, how did you, what does that look like? I know a lot of people are going, wait a second, she's self-healing over there, but there is scientific proof that really sometimes it is just mind over matter. So what does that look like? How did you kind of recreate that story, reshape it?
This was cool because I just thought, no way, I have so much proof, like bone on bone, no meniscus, no ACL, no cartilage. There's no way that I can adjust that with my mind. But I did a session with a practitioner that does the work I do. And she was able to adjust my pain levels based on what I was thinking about. So now I'll say that again. She was able to adjust my pain levels based on what I was thinking about. When I was thinking about happy experiences, I didn't notice my knee. When I was thinking about my elbow, I didn't notice my knee. And I'm like, wait, now my knee doesn't hurt? How could that be? Like, it's been hurting constantly. So I gave it a lot of, I was giving it power in that if I can adjust it in my emotions, then maybe the pain could be gone all the time. But what we did then was actually, she just asked me some questions, and I was like, well, the first time I felt this pain in my knee was when it happened. I'm 17 and I'm doing this cheerleading event, and somebody bumps me, and I was I was hurt. I wasn't going to cheerlead after that, right? It totally blew up my knee. The doctor was saying it, he does football knees, and he's like, this is one of the worst we've seen. So I'm like, okay, I had real proof that this was a bad thing, but everybody was basically saying you're faking it because they're kids. And they think you're trying to get out of something. I'm like, I don't get out of this. I like this. Like, I'm not faking it. And so trying to prove that, but then that belief carries through in my life. I have to prove I'm genuine, prove I'm real, prove I'm not faking it. And I guess somewhere in the memory of my body, my knee said, well, we can prove it by, needing a surgery again. So whatever happens when we get older, we just become less resilient to certain things in our body. Like, things start to break down. We're just less resilient. And then those emotional things can now become more powerful.
So going back, I know that we talked about memories can have smiles. So do you want to touch on that just a little bit?
Yes. So I say forgiveness, which is the balm, which is the thing that I think heals everything. That's just my experience with my clients, going back and having forgiveness. And forgiveness, I always just thought, I say it over and over, and I try to think good things about that person, and I try to be nice to them, and I try to. What I'm doing is creating a try mindset. I'm creating try this, try it. And so what I'm practicing is trying, and that's hard work. That's always trying. That's not doing it. But if we can go back and observe our memories, and you can look up like how memories change. That is well documented in science at this point. But memories are not solidified. They're updated every time we have an emotion and we go visit a memory. If you're angry at your spouse right now, every memory, even the good ones, you'll be like, oh, that's right, he did that then too, and he did that. So this is just the way our brain works. It adjusts based on our emotions. So if we're in a happy emotional state and we're in a feel-good memory, we feel happy about our life right now, and we go visit a negative memory, it will adjust. So we have the power to adjust the negative, the traumas, the pains, the hurts. And when we do that enough times, then all of a sudden we can influence our memory by having everybody smile from the different perspectives. What's their perspective? What's the wall's perspective? What's the food's perspective? Like, what's the child's perspective? From all these perspectives, we have absorbed something about ourselves. Have you ever noticed you're talking to someone and their face goes like, and you're like, oh, they think I'm bad. Well, now their face has been implanted into your memory. That's their face in your mind now. And now you're having the sensations of that picture that meant something to you. It meant you're weird, you're different, you don't fit in, I don't like you, whatever it meant to you. And now you see from that perspective, even though it wasn't ever you, it was them.
So how do you fix that? How do you retrain that memory?
Yes, so it really is. And I know that a lot of clients I work with, I'm like, okay, let's find a happy memory. And they're like, I can't find anything happy, right? Because right now they're in a state of depression, anxiety, like there's a pandemic going on. You have to wear masks. There's all these rules. So we have to establish a happy memory. We have to make that big. We have to help you feel those good feelings that you feel when you accomplished something, when you achieved, when somebody complimented you, when you felt loved, what you love. Is it a puppy? Is it a sunset? So we find those resources that are inside you, because for every person it's different, but it's inside you that is what makes the difference for you. So we find those happy feelings, and then we just go back and visit, and I say, notice the memory. What's happening in it? And you'll tell me the bad things happening, right? And I use different techniques to distract the traumatic memory, different techniques to distract it and bring you back to an emotional state. The emotions will take the power out of that negative memory. That's what emotions do.
Do you find that the 21-day, I've been listening since we discussed just the other day, I've been doing a little bit more research because it's so fascinating to me.
It is.
You know, back in the 80s, you watched the movies and this guy was listening to this really bad, corny recording of how you're great, you'll steal the day, blah, 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 but yeah. Some of the research that I've been also doing states that positive reinforcement can almost, after you create the habit, and it seems like the 21-day marker seems to be that habit, that's when you start seeing it almost becomes automatic, is what they were saying. Have you noticed that with your clients?
That's a good question. So I like my clients to have an automatic transformation after just spending time with them. Because if that memory, so just think about this. If I say, think about something bad that happened in your childhood, that's a memory, but now you're developing sensations. Some people might start crying. Some people are going to feel their heart get faster. Some people are going to start sweating. Some people are going to want to run. Your body just went into flight. Your emotions are dictated by what you're thinking, but you don't always know what you're thinking. It's in the back. It's playing, right? Mm-hmm. So when we go back and we find out, what is that memory that's making you feel this way now? You have juvenile responses to things, right? Like, somebody says something like it's silly that shouldn't even bother you, but you're like, why did that bother me? Like, I just want to choke them. I'm so mad. I want to scream. I want to hit something. That's a juvenile response. That's coming from pain from the past. So you're carrying that past around. So when I say Go back and notice a memory of your childhood that was traumatic, that was hurtful, that made you feel bad. It might be friends that said something mean about you. It might be your parents fighting over something. So when you're in that memory, those experiences feel real right now in your body. Just like when you watch a movie and it's exciting or scary, you start to react. Your body is just listening to what it believes is happening. So if that memory and trauma from your past doesn't hold any power, now your brain can't go back and find it, and you can have an effortless change today.
And that is the beauty of the brain, I think, right? We're able to, it's not necessarily programmed to do anything. It's a neutral, I feel like. You have to tell it, and then it puts things on automation. Then it becomes automatic, and that's where the retraining comes. So it's a lot of self-discipline and work to find those happy memories, right? Correct me if I'm wrong. I'm just piecing it together here. But you go back, visit those memories. Mm-hmm. You're going to feel like you're in that moment. And now this is your opportunity to help retrain that thought, connect it to something different, right?
Yes. And so think of it. So there's a couple of things that you said that were really good. So one thing is our brain is trained. When you sit in the car, what's the first thing you do? Like if I said, I don't even have to say it, like this motion of buckle up, it's automatic. So your body is doing that for you automatically. Your body is pumping its heartbeat right now. It's pumping fluids through you. Like you're not thinking, oh, it's time to have a heartbeat. It's time to breathe in. It's time to breathe out. Like,
thank goodness.
Right. We appreciate what the subconscious does for us. But what we need to know is which memories are giving us a result that we don't want. That's the sabotaging. And it doesn't have to be us. It can be someone else's face. It can be a fight someone else had. It can be a picture that is put into your mind that you didn't even do. And so when I'm talking about forgiveness, I'm talking about making everyone in that memory or allowing them all to smile. What needs to change so that they can all smile? Because if everyone there is smiling, now it's no more powerful than every day your mom picked you up from school. Mom picked you up from school. You don't remember that. If I asked you, did your mom pick you up from school? You'd be like, oh yeah, I remember that now. But it didn't make an impact because she was there. But if I said, what day bothered you the most of your mom picking you up, you might remember, oh, that day she didn't pick me up. That day she was late. That day, she showed up in her pajamas and embarrassed me. You remember the big blown up event that gave you emotions. But now if those emotions don't bother you, neither does that memory, and you can forget. So forgiveness is forgetting.
So funny that you bring up the picking up from school, and this is not my mom. It was something that a friend of mine did, and so so picture like the junior high is up on a bit of a hill, and then the cars came and parked down below. So you had all these steps to walk down. Well, number one, I was always terrified that I was going to fall down those stairs and embarrass the snot out of myself. Right. To this day, I very carefully walk downstairs in front of people.
Exactly. And it has nothing to do with your ability right now. It has to do with you were just learning it then. But the feeling triggered this is an important moment, and now it replays. That's what your brain did before you were 7. It's setting up a record. What do you need to repeat? What do you need to think about? What things created the most trauma that we need to be safe?
Well, and in the midst of all this, so I'm thinking, okay, don't fall. And then out of this side of my head, I hear, oh my gosh, Mom, don't get out of the car. You look awful. And I'm thinking, number one, my mother just brought me a homemade meal, remembered to pick me up, and I am grateful and excited to see her. And then on the other side, so it's so funny that sticks with me because he was so mean to her.
Oh.
And I think, and every time now that, like I see my parents pull up, I think of that and I think, oh,
Do you really?
I'm so glad to see my parents. That brings me, I mean, I feel loved. I feel like they always bring food because Southern comfort food, and it's always food from the garden. So I mean,
Oh,
even more love, but it's that, um, that's interesting.
that memory. Right. And here's the thing that our brain did. So the voice wasn't yours,
Mm-mm.
the mom wasn't you, but now those images are put right inside of you. So now the voice is his, but sometimes it changes. When I ask people whose voice is that, they'll say, well, it's mine, because now you've absorbed it as part of you, but it was just an experience you had. You weren't even involved with it, really. I mean, but you saw it, and now it created an imprint on your mind. And now the voice, the sound, the feelings, the don't get out of the car, like all of those emotions have implanted themselves on you and on your psyche, your pattern in your brain.
Which, as you were saying, that's how we learn, that's how we grow. So
Right.
some memories, you that one's not necessarily one you would want to change because it reminds me how loved I felt, so that goes a little off of what we were talking about.
Well, you keep the love part, but the part with him yelling and whatever that created, that made you remember it. That's holding the power part. So right. There are parts of things that you're like, I want to keep this. This is
Right.
beneficial. This feels good. Yes. And this part isn't. That made me feel scared. That made me feel, bad for my mom or whatever it did for you. That's up to you. That's what I do is I find out what are the things that aren't serving you that you want to rewrite and what are the things that are serving you, and then get more of that so that it drives your brain from noticing what you don't want, what you don't want to feel, what you don't want to notice, to what you do want more of.
And that's where a coach comes. I know a lot of times there's kind of this, people are like, coach, I don't think people even really realize what that word means. But in this case, it is a very warm feeling. Somebody can be the sound of reason, help you see what you can't see. It's all
Right.
there, but they're helping
Yes.
you categorize it. And
Yes.
that right there is why you need somebody who isn't right there with you all the time. They can help you. Okay, so we both have kiddos.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm thinking at night. So we're a military family for the audience members that don't know me very well yet. And when we move all the time, I feel like all we do is talk. We share feelings with the kids all the time. So at the end of the day, now that I know that memories are so important, would there be a tip that you might give a parent that's like, okay, good,
I
good.
love this question. Yes. So as adults, we think if we talk to them, we'll help them feel better, or if we, express the need for this, but we just don't know what they're thinking. We don't know what they take from that, right? So I remember my mom, I would say bye to my dad and I would miss him. And I was probably only like 2 or 3, but this is what I remember. And I would say, well, why is he leaving us? Where is he going? And she'd say, oh, he has to go to work to make money so that we can eat. So that's great. As a parent, you're explaining something, right? But to me, what that meant was my dad likes money more than me. He won't stay home with me. He wants to go find money. Well, that's a juvenile mind trying to figure out their world. Like I was just trying to figure out my world. Why is dad leaving instead of being with me? So we don't know how they take it. So with my daughter, I ask those questions.
Okay.
That's what I think is powerful. So asking a question, what does that mean about you? We have to move again. We're moving to another place. What does that mean about you? You want to know how are they internalizing it?
You don't want to fill in. Don't ever, I've learned, don't ever ask the yes and no question, because all you're going to get is a yes or a no.
Yeah.
Ask, go ahead, sorry.
No, and it's so much deeper connection with your child. Like I think we're afraid sometimes to ask them because then we are going to feel responsible for their pain. But we can alleviate that when we know it. We can just love them up and give them happy feelings based on what we know about them. So
Right.
asking questions like, how does this, what does this mean about you? How do you know that? When's the first time you learned that you meet that means you're not important, or they're going to start a new school, they're going to have all these things, but they've already got a history of what's it like. So there are probably memories where they went into a school and were mistreated, bullied, treated like the new kid, disengaged, all of these things. Those are some of the memories that are easier to adjust on a child, but that you can help them deal with and just help them get through it so much easier, so that it doesn't hold and stick for the next move and the next move, and it becomes lighter and easier for them instead of, have you noticed, harder and more difficult, because they have resources that they're going back and they're like, yeah, last time this school did this, and then, oh my gosh, and then that school. They're adding to this big emotion of, I'm not going to fit in, or whatever it means to them. But you don't know until you ask them.
And don't ask the yes or no question. Unfortunately, I have learned that the hard way. And that's not helpful at night. Sometimes when I'm laying them down at night, that is my favorite time. If you haven't found a favorite time to talk to your child, I suggest you experiment with that, because at night, it seems like that's when they know they have my attention, full attention.
Right.
If you're cooking and there's a boiling pot and you've got this over there, that's not exactly the best time to grab my attention and make it meaningful.
Right.
But at night, they have my undivided attention. Emma Catherine is to that age now where we're discussing a lot of things that are beginning to happen with our body. And these are very important conversations that could impact the next few years. So right now, navigating that has been difficult, because sometimes you don't want to necessarily hear what they're saying sometimes, I don't think.
Right. Yeah. So being the kind of parent that deals emotionally with your own stuff. Mm-hmm. So when stuff comes up for them, you can actually be there for them instead of bringing along what it means about you.
That
right?
is very impactful, I feel like. Because if you're holding on to it, it's really hard to help somebody else along the way.
Right. We are narcissistic, we are selfish, because that's how come we stay alive. And until we can fill that need, our own need for love and happiness and joy, we really can't. It's really hard for us to do that for our kids, because we're so focused on, what does that mean about me? When they say, well, I don't know, I had a hard day, and they said this and about you, or we always turn it back and look at, what did I do wrong as a parent? Is that right?
It is. It is.
Right. Well, what if you feel so confident and so loved as a parent, as a person, that when they come to you with their problem, you can really be there for them and not have it mean something about you that you're defensive about and you're hurt about, but can just love them.
So that brings me to this right here. How do we find you?
Oh,
because
great.
It sounds like when your vase overfloweth and you are completely filled, you have abundance to give. Right. And you need to find your abundance. It's all about self-love. You're the next step. So let's start there. Is there an exercise or something to get started, to kind of dig in?
Yes. So I I do have a Facebook group that's called the Happiness Tribe, and I go on in there a lot and discuss things. And what I love is questions. Now, for me, the whole drive, and maybe you're like this, the whole drive is like, ah, if I just had the perfect body, I'd be happy. Or if my kids would just do this, I'd be happy. Or if we just didn't have to move anymore, I'd be happy. Like the happiness is external.
Mm.
When I get this, I'll be happy. But you're always feeling like it's something more. When I'm the perfect mom, I'll be happy. When my kids are perfect, I'll be so happy. When they're out of the house, when they come back home, when they have kids, when they like we are sitting there grabbing for something to give us happiness and to finally feel fulfilled. And this whole group is finding that happiness inside of yourself and then shining it out from within and doing for yourself what makes you happy. And sometimes we don't know. I didn't know how. I've gone on vacations with my husband. I did not know how powerful. We did a whale petting excursion in Baja. And I really didn't know how powerful that memory was for me until I had to find my top 5 happiest memories. And I have a YouTube video on this called Reverse Engineer Your Happiness. And it's so powerful. I hope that everybody else gets the experience I get. When we reverse engineer our happiness, we find out what is it I need. You might not know. And so in all of my happy memories, there's one theme. And it might not be for you. Yours is different, and that's fine. That's what we do. We find what it is for you in your own subconscious, in your experiences. What is it for you that leaves you feeling happy? For me, all of my experiences, I was chosen. Now, if I take that chosen memory into my current relationship with my husband and I feel chosen when I'm around him, do I treat him better?
Mm.
If I take that feeling into my relationship with my children and I feel chosen by them, do I treat them better? My behavior changes once I experience that feeling more and more instead of like, no, I shouldn't think about that because I need to do this, and this today. Well, guess what? If I do it out of fulfilling that feeling for myself first, do I do everything better? And there is proof that it's called the happiness advantage. When you're happy, you do everything better. So start there.
So, okay. So, the exercise that we want to hit on is the YouTube. I'm going to link it below and I'll put it across the screen here. And I'll get that information from you.
Sure.
So start there, right?
Yes.
That is a really, oh, I can't wait to
Yes.
get off and do that. And let me just touch on something. When you are looking for people to follow and invite into your very limited time, space, and emotional frame of mind, you're looking for people just like Tammy, okay? You're looking for people who can connect and help you blossom. So I think that right there, go to the Happiness Tribe. I will also link that below. She does. I've just been on there a few times in the past 3 days or so, but it is so real and so important to hear these things being repeated, knowing how worthy you are. That's a great place to start. We could go on literally forever. But I think this is such a good kind of tip of the iceberg right here. Working with emotions and feelings, really getting back to what was the root? Where did this come from? And that's where you're going to start needing a little bit more help to dissect that. So I think a good place to start is definitely with finding your 5 happiest memories. I cannot wait to watch that.
Yes. Right. And just to say this, so what happens when we do that is it's like we shouldn't be happy. You might run across that, and that's called resistance. Just do it anyways. Do it anyway. And the resistance are the memories that tell you you're not good enough. So what I like to have happen with my clients is for them to say, I feel like a kid again. Because the person they were created to be is so beautiful, so creative, so wonderful. And the experiences that happen to them is what's stopping them from doing their passion, from doing what they love. The experiences are not them, but now it's been put in the brain as a truth, as part of them. And those experiences can move and shift and become beautiful pictures of a gift that moves you into your better life, your best self.
In fact, we discussed stained glass.
Oh, right.
And that really gave me a very vibrant picture, because growing up, we were in a church that had very vibrant stained glass. So do you want to tell that little tidbit?
Yes. So what I realized, and it's so fascinating because I've talked to some of my colleagues and they're like, yes, I know that's totally true. So what happens in order to get effortless change, when you go back and change memories, what that does is when the brain goes back and says, okay, so say it was a memory where people were calling you stupid, or maybe you felt really dumb when you were standing up in front of people and you couldn't give your speech. Maybe you gave a bad speech, and now that memory has such a stronghold over you. But when that memory feels good, now your brain doesn't go back and say, see, you can't do it. See, you are stupid. See, you're so nervous in front of people. And if that's gone, then you have an automatic different experience. So so your life, we just imagine it like a glass, and you can look into your past through this glass and you can see all of your experiences that have happened in your life. And anything you saw, heard, felt, any sensation you've had in your body, it's all a memory, and it's all behind this glass. But now what happens is that experience is trauma, aches and pains, hospital issues, doctors, people that are mean. All of these things kind of splash this dirt on this beautiful window into your past. And when we start to scrub off a memory, and then we start to scrub off another memory, the ones that were like these big pillars in your life that said, oh, that one's so important. It created you because of the negative thing that happened. When we start to clean that off and you look into your past, you start to, the beautiful, the happy memories, the best memories, they just come to life automatically.
And they're so vibrant.
Right. We're looking at our past through a negative experience. And so we're tainting our whole entire past, that we forgot all of the most beautiful things, our parents, our friends, our family. We forgot all of those good things because of this block in front of our eyes that's changing the color, the vibrancy of the truth of our great life.
Oh, every time I've thought about that image now for several days, thinking about how if you just brush it off, start to really wipe it down, see what's behind there, deal with those little pieces, you really start to find something you didn't put with that memory. Like you forgot that.
Right.
Oh my goodness. Tammy, thank you so much. What a wonderful bright spot in the midst of the crazy. I cannot wait for people to come follow you on the Happiness Tribe. I'll link all those below. And thank you for being here and taking the time to share with us.
I'm so grateful. I just feel like my journey has impacted my life so much. And that's what I just want to give that to others, because of how incredible our own ability to change our own life is once we look inside instead of outside for what makes us happy.
Finding the beauty in everyday life.
Yep. Right. Beauty from ashes. I heard you say that. And I was like, that's beautiful. I love it. Right.
Well, thank you. And I cannot wait to chat again. I'm sure we'll have another something coming up before too long.